Well, I'm just someone who learns by mistakes, I guess. And like creativity is just throwing stuff at the wall, seeing what sticks half the time. For me, it's give it a crack. But for me to tell you how to be creative doesn't work. Like it has to come from within, right? Like that's kind of the vibe.
Not everyone leaves school knowing exactly what they want to do. Some people have a plan, some people have a score they're chasing, and some people, well, they just start trying things. In this episode, we sit down with Hayden Bevis, founder of Poster Boy, who built a creative career not from a clear pathway, but one out of experimenting, staying curious, and actually making things just for the sake of it. We talk about why creativity isn't something you're born with, why communication might actually be one of the most important skills people can build, especially young people right now, and what it really looks like to turn something you enjoy into meaningful work. If you're ever worried that you or your child don't have it all figured out yet, this one is perfect for you. Welcome to this episode of More Than a Score.
Hayden Bevis, welcome to More Than a Score. It's an absolute privilege to have you here. Not sure if you're familiar, but I'm very lucky in that I get to do the introductions for our guests. Here we go. So, freshly haircutted, trivia conqueror and guru, masterful storyteller, observer and thinker, comedy writer and risk taker, highly creative, high achiever who brings joy and fun out of anything, creative director, connector, podcast producer and videographer, and just all-round legend, Hayden Bevis. Welcome to More Than a Score.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Your reactions to that were like... unsure. Well, that was that.
Oh, yeah, unsure. Well, I mean, risk taker? What do you mean by risk taker? What have you seen in my...
All right, so welcome to Interview the Interviewers. Well, the reason why I think is you're a really creative person. You've also written a whole bunch of different like films or stories. You created documentaries too. So I just think looking back at all the things that you've done, that in itself is like taking risks, creating these different things and putting them out there for people to view or just create something that's maybe never existed before.
Okay. I see that. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know what the intonation on risk is though. Like for me, that's just like, yeah, let's do it. But then you're like, oh, what a risk. But I'm like, sure, if you want it to be a risk, it's a risk.
I think that's really interesting because I think, and we'll get to your pathway too, but I think because you've done so many creative endeavors over time that for you to just go, yeah, you just put a thing out there, that's absolutely fine for thousands of people to be able to view and look at and consider.
Okay, yeah. I can see that. I have, and I mean, even the word creativity I have not issues with, but I'm like when people like, I'm creative and not creative, I see a lot of people that are in their jobs are creative, but they wouldn't define themselves as creative. And I'm like, what do you mean? You just build the thing and you put it out. I just watched you build that thing and do it. And so, I don't know, like, yeah, good. I don't even know what I'm trying to say there. So there you go.
It's all right. We're creating new meaning. See, you are super creative. Hayden, as we start each episode, one of the things that we ask people is when you think back to the end of your time at school, were you happy with your score?
I didn't feel much for it. Is that like I was like, oh, okay. Like I didn't feel a lot for it. I didn't put a lot of pressure on myself. I didn't. So the score itself, when I received it, I was just like, oh, that kind of makes sense. Checks out. And then just that was it. That was kind of it. Like it wasn't in or there.
Was that part of the culture that people didn't seem to put much emphasis on it, or was it more of an individual thing?
It's probably leaning towards more of an individual thing. The school itself was probably tilted towards a more social school. I remember it strongly for its social culture than its actual school scoring. I do remember the next year when the results came out for all the school, our school was actually quite particularly low, so much so that the local Border Mail, the Rag, it was a news story that we actually had such a low score. So, so I don't think, looking back at it now, I'm like, I don't think we had a lot of emphasis on that. It was just the only Catholic school in Albury High School. So I think it was possibly religious based, but that was just what you did, I think. So they had 3 funnel schools, which were primary Catholic schools, and then everyone just merged in in year 7. So it was just like, this is the one you go to. So that was just, I think it was just what you did for that one from memory. I don't remember ever a conversation about going anywhere else
Did that school set you up for any particular pathway? Like, were you clear of where you were headed after school?
No, not at all. There was no pathway. Like, I never remember a conversation along those lines that was ever happened. And it was kind of all just, and I think I even put this in the feedback form, but I look at now at the subjects you can study at school, and I'm like, what? Like, you don't just have 5? That was it, your choice? So kind of just like your basic level stuff, I guess, and then maybe a couple of electives. So there wasn't, I didn't particularly have a pathway that I knew I was going down, and I'm not sure how much they reinforced that, or maybe I just wasn't listening.
Yeah, okay. And so what were the 5 subjects that were like everyone?
I mean, you had your English, maths, chemistry. Oh, I can't even remember. Sorry, this is so strange.
Biology?
No, we didn't even have biology, I don't think. PE was definitely there. I definitely did PE. And then religion you had to do.
And history? Maybe I feel like that'd be a standard.
No, history. No, I did earth and environmental science. I think that was my elective, as well as art. So I just had I don't even know. I don't even know why I selected half of these stuff, to be honest.
I kind of love it. I kind of love that you just like, oh, whatever, just kind of went through.
Yeah, I know. Even when it came to selecting university options, I just went, vet science would be cool, or maybe like journalism, and just was like, these things sound fun. No one was there to be like, hey, have you actually thought about this? And I was like, no.
So interesting. Yeah. When we asked you the 3 words to describe education, you said necessary, misunderstood, and ongoing.
Yes.
Can you give me some context around those?
Well, ongoing, I thought, education, I don't think this is a unique perspective, but education doesn't stop at the end of year 12. I thought it's still going, and I love it to this day, probably more so than I do. And that probably leads into the misunderstood thing, is probably I didn't understand it then, or didn't understand what I was being taught, or the reasons why things were probably being given to me. And I think I've forgotten his name, there's a great comedian, I think it's Lewis Garnham. I can't remember his name, but he's like, I wish I had the same sort of head now, that it'd be so great to go to a place that teaches you these things, and then you realize that was what school was about. But now I'm just a 40-year-old listening to podcasts and be like, oh, wow, did you know about rocks? They're so cool. Whereas back then I was just like, rocks, what the hell? So I guess it's just an ongoing, never-ending process.
So
that's what I meant by that.
So the change for you is that the purpose of learning, you can see that there's actual connections for why you're learning a thing, instead of just learning it because you're in a class because an adult's talking about it, versus I can actually go use this in my life or inform my life.
That's correct. Yes, that's 100% it. And that's probably where I land into the misunderstood element of it, because I just didn't understand it and at that point, and probably didn't understand it for a few years till after that. So I think, but is that up to me? Is that up to teachers to tell me? I'm not sure. But yeah, that's probably what I meant by those 2. What was the other word I wrote down? I've already forgotten.
You had necessary, and I was going to ask, so what is necessary?
Oh, knowledge is necessary is like, I just thought, a world without it would be insanity. So that was just the first thought that came to my mind, is just like, well, obviously it's a necessary thing.
And I'm wondering, so with your experience, you were just there thinking, so it was really social, you enjoyed yourself at school, you didn't really know why you picked the subjects you did, you just sort of did those things. How would your friends or parents have viewed your time at school?
Well, my time at school was very social, I think. Like, it was just an enjoyable time. At the time, I guess it was more about, it's an interesting one with my parents. I probably won't go into too much, but at the time, my mum would describe that time as chaos, is what she would describe it as. And that's, she had undiagnosed bipolar at that point. So, at the time it was the Bevis family, or the family, and I think I've talked to Mum about this before, she would describe it as they were just surviving. Like, it was just, education was not a priority for the family necessarily that I'm aware of. And I think I talked to her about that. It was probably just getting food on the table. It was more her thing, and doing the best that they could. The fact that I probably just had a place to be was probably where they were coming from. So that's how they would have viewed that time. And so that probably gives a little bit more context as to why I probably didn't think of it as a pathway or understand it as a thing to go down. So my friends probably were more entrenched in the educational aspect of it, but I was probably there as just the good sidekick that was having a good time. Possibly. I don't know. I'd love to ask them and find out. I never actually have.
Sounds like it was a great place for you to be. How wonderful. For someone that's pretty social and extroverted, you get to connect with the different people, see them every day, just have a laugh, and then also do some things that are sort of interesting too. But you perked up when you said about, yes, PE. PE was a definite thing that you said, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it felt a bit like, what's this fun place? Like, we get to play Frisbee or underwater hockey or something for like 2 hours? Yeah, I'm in. What's this about? This is great.
So it's really helpful if someone's listening now. So you're there, you're not too set on a path. You're not really thinking that far ahead. You're just in the now, enjoying the time with the people. You're having this experience. There's different demands and stresses that happen within all families too. So you're just enjoying your time. You get the letter or you download, the score finally loads up on those old school computers. You see the score, you go, oh yeah. What happens after you see the score? What do you then think and go do?
At that point, I had to reconnect with my family who'd moved to Melbourne. So I'm very much a floater. And at that point, I was very just a floating type of person that was just sort of, I don't know, but I was like, I probably should go back to the family. So I went back to the family in Melbourne, and then I was just like, I probably should get a job. And that was the next thing. And so that's
your family had moved to Melbourne when you were in year 12? Is that right?
So it's right. So in year 12, I stayed in Albury and they'd moved to Melbourne. At that point, my parents wanted me to start year 11 and 12 again, but I was like, I'm already pretty deep into this. I feel like I should stay for many reasons. But there was many other things they were thinking about before they thought about my year 12. Totally fine, understandable. And then I was like, well, I'll stay. And at that point, they were just like, whatever, we don't care. There was a friend who offered me a place to stay with her and her family. So I stayed there for a few months before I moved in with my auntie and uncle halfway through year 12 for that reason. They took me in, which was very lovely. And towards the end of year 12, it just sort of finished. And I was like, I don't know. I feel like it was a bit like the John Travolta meme where he's just from Pulp Fiction, like looking around, like, is that kind of it? Like,
no, I felt the same. You go to your exam and you come home, you're sitting around, you're like, oh, yeah. It's like all this pressure, all this time you put into all this stuff, and then you come home and because people often don't finish the same day. Everyone's got different exams.
Yes.
You come home and you're like, oh, what a strange. It's such a strange feeling, isn't it?
Yeah, it was a weird feeling, and then everyone just goes about their day, and you're like, I guess I'll make something. I'll just what do I do now? Like, sort of thing. So then I travelled off down to Melbourne, and I was like, I better get a job, and that's when I just answered. I think at that point it was even in the newspaper, an ad for an optical mechanic, and I started working as an optical mechanic at Merrington's Optometrists.
And just to clarify, what's a newspaper? Sorry.
A newspaper. It's very good. It's a good joke.
Yes, sorry, thank you. We'll explain it. Yeah, that's good. Talk us through the pathway. Like normally we sometimes talk through the different stages and steps, but I'm super interested to hear you explain for the listener, like what then comes next between you trotting back to Melbourne through to becoming a co-founder of Poster Boy Media Production Company.
What's the steps? I guess, I started working at Merrington's Optometrist. Then I moved to Budget Eyewear. I was just traversing away across this optometrist land. And I think it was a magazine. I must have seen Holmes Glen TAFE were offering a course in broadcasting. And I was just like, yeah, cool. Like I could see that. And from school and stuff, like had a glimpse at editing and filmmaking and stuff like that. I'm like, that's pretty cool. I remember it was year 11 or year 12. I don't know whose camera it was, but we ended up with a camera and made a sketch show called Suck Shit. It was just doing pranks on people and then just saying suck shit at the end.
That's a really 17-year-old name.
I feel like historically, probably around the same time as Jackass or something like that.
Yeah, it was around that same time. It would have been a similar thing. It was just stupid things, and at the end you just say suck shit, and that's the joke.
A whole group of Year 9 boys, and they created this whole, it would be viral now, called shirtsing. What do you think that would be if I said shirtsing? Year 9 boys.
Well, I know what dacking is, so I feel like it's adding shirts to someone.
Yeah, so literally what they'd do is they'd run behind people and jump up really high and put their shirts over people's heads. And
Yeah.
and then run off.
But how would they run off? Because aren't they wearing the shirt and then they put it on the person's head and then they're stuck with it?
Yeah, but then ultimately the person falls over and they kind of fall at the bottom of the shirt and you keep running.
Oh.
That'll be on
It's not
somewhere.
No, Hayden's 6'4", so I'd like to see someone try and jump up onto Hayden and get him.
and shirts him. Did you guys have to have a meeting
It'll
where you...
be on the socials, everyone. We'll put that on the...
Yeah. I love the mentality of a boy at that age, just being like, what great content. Love that.
It's good content. Did you have to have an assembly where you were like, guys, we have to ban shirtsing?
100%.
Oh, yeah, okay. All right.
Yeah.
I didn't think I'd have...
We don't know what it is. Can you please act it out for us?
Yeah.
What is shirtsing?
We knew what it was. It was happening everywhere.
Oh my gosh.
Everywhere, all over the courtyard.
So hey, you jump in, you do your diploma at broadcasting. So you see it in a magazine, you see Holmes Glen TAFE, you go, great,
Yeah.
this sounds like of interest. It's channeling a passion of telling people to suck shit and video and create content. Talk us through it. So then what happens?
At that place, I met a friend and a colleague that I still do stuff today, Lachlan Milsom. He's an excellent animator, excellent voice, great, just really, really funny guy. And we started making sketches and doing silly stuff together. I still, to this day, get great joy out of making that guy laugh. I think it's a really fun thing, really, really is play for me, which is excellent. So we would make stuff together and have fun doing that. So it'd be sort of between the two of us just sort of teaching how to edit film. And concurrently to that, I attended one trivia night. I think it was at a place called the Pool Room out in Ferntree Gully. And there was a guy that hosted for a trivia night out in a bar and told him I'd like to work with him. At one point, I was like, I could give this a go. I think I said I'd be better than him at it. And I think I was trying to be funny, but he was like, all right, prove it, idiot. And I didn't realize he was starting his own company, his own quiz company. And then he got me in and I went and I started hosting for them. So I started becoming a trivia host on Thursday nights at the Keeper's Arms Hotel in North Melbourne. I was just finished studying the Diploma of Broadcasting, and then I decided I'll see if I can get a job. And I said to the same guy from the quiz company that I could make their AV segments if he'd let me do it. So then he got me in and I started working for them, making their AV stuff that went up on the screen at the quiz night. And then for 12 years after that, I just made stuff, whether it was for the quiz company, which I was working with, whether it was Lachlan that I was making funny stuff with, or I was doing on the side. I was just also making music videos, all that sort of stuff. It just was happening at the same time that YouTube had just started. So like you could actually have a place to put stuff, I guess, like between that, Facebook, all these sort of things. You just like would make things and put them somewhere. Like it was just, you'd make it, you put it up and you'd be like, cool, that's that done. And on to the next one. So it was just...
When you say make stuff, just to help for the listener, so you're talking about different video contents, different like music video, sketch comedy, just pretty much any sort of video content though.
That's right. Documentaries, video, content. It'd be all it all now sort of trickles down to that single word, which is content, which feels a bit annoying as a word now because you're like, it just like reduces all of this stuff that you learned just to one. Just put it on a website and you're like, damn it, I wish there was another word. The other word is art, but then I'm like, nah, that's too much wank. Like bring it back a little bit. So somewhere between the two. In between. And then, you'd make... Yeah, that's essentially what I made. So content, I guess, would be. So we're making podcasts. We were working on the radio at like 12 o'clock on a Friday night, which I guess is Saturday morning at Southern FM. Like just doing heaps of stuff, just making stuff. Yeah.
Does this feel like work or play to you at this point?
It's utter play. It's all play. I was getting paid, not a lot, but it was just like a bit impulsive and just doing it for the shits and gigs, to be honest. And and then 10 years go past in that sort of phase. I probably, should have grown up and got a real job at that point. But I was just doing that play. And then I'd started to hit around 2010, 2011, 2012. Businesses started to cotton onto social media and be like, we need a presence. We need something. We need stuff. And then a friend of mine who I'd been making music videos with, Rohit, who'd been in the rap group Justice and Chaos. I'd been making their music videos And he was working at Census at the time at Telstra, and he sort of saw that people were ringing up Census going, how do I make a video? And he knew that he was like, well, I could get this guy to do it. But he was, we talk about it whilst he was making stuff, and we're both like, oh, there could be an angle here. And then he saw a, I think it was a post on Facebook about someone from a university going, hey, we need a video. And then he sort of screenshot that and was like, want to give it a crack? And we're like, yeah, sure. So we started just making content for businesses and around that point. And then I left my quiz job, he left his job, and we just started Poster Boy Media about, I think it's 11 years ago now. So yeah, we're in that world. It was a digital content creation agency, I guess.
And I think something that you've sort of skipped over there that I think is really important is, and it slightly maybe challenges that idea of, you said, well, 10 years go by, but it sounds like you've really mastered and crafted a whole range of skills when it comes to like storytelling, editing, shooting. I imagine even like storyboarding and thinking about the way that you produce and create all of these different videos and things. Because within that time too, and please correct me if I'm wrong, did you guys create a short film that you went and attended the Cannes Film Festival? Is that right? You actually had a...
Not quite, but it's like outside Cannes, I guess. It was a 48-hour film festival.
You're on a red carpet.
The 48-hour film festival is a competition that's held worldwide, which is just 48 hours to come up with an idea, shoot it, edit it, get it out back within 48 hours. A group of 5 or 6 people, we've done it for a few years, and then one year we're like, okay, we'll give it another crack. And that year we won the Melbourne one, which then sent you to Paris for it to be shown in Paris and compete against all the other films in the world. It was in the top 10 or 12 in the world that got chosen at that place at Paris, and then got sent to it'd be broadcast as part of the top 12 films. Which was in Cannes. Thank you. It was in Cannes, but I think it was not sort of part of Cannes. So it's almost like the Melbourne Film Festival, but it's at it's someone's
off
backyard.
Broadway.
Off Broadway. It's not part of the Cannes Film Festival.
This is one of those times when you need to round up. You're like, it was Cannes Film Festival.
But then people would hear it and be like, no, it wasn't. Be like,
true. Well, look, fact checking. We have sort of mentioned it might have just been off Cannes Film Festival, but let's just say it's pretty much.
Well, congratulations. Yeah. That's a huge achievement.
Well, thank you, Laura. I appreciate it.
And I think so. The reason that I'm saying that all too is, I guess, listening to that is over time you were mastering and crafting these different skills. It's now led you to found this company and this. How did you describe it? A digital. I think it's digital content creation. It's hard to explain. It was a film production company, but we do podcasts and photo and copywriting and all that sort of stuff. And then I think, as annoying as it is to say aloud, it is a content agency, is what it is. So, yeah. Yeah, but I mean, it's such a thing. Like now, so many young people are talking about, young and older, talking about, even just wanting to become a YouTuber, or so you're really right now within like your fingers on the pulse with this industry. So for anyone that's listening, or if anyone has a young person they know that's really creative, or this is a space that they're playing with, what would be the key skills or the key areas that you would suggest people focus and really try and refine and learn?
Oh, I think part of the thing that actually made us, and Ro, my business partner, is very good at this in terms of getting to know what actually people want to say, I think is a really hard thing when we're dealing with. So it's almost relationships are a really good thing, I guess. Is a soft skill, but it's like, is that what you mean? Or just in terms of making things?
Yeah, exactly what you mean, yeah.
Because even I'm interested to hear that when you said, finding out what people are actually wanting to say. My first thing that I was thinking is, I'm like, well, how do you do that?
Often it's telling them the wrong thing, and then they're like, I don't want to say that. And then you're like, cool. And then it's like, you present them with things that they don't want till they actually go, I actually want this. And then you're like, we're there. So knowing what you want's just a really, really hard thing. I think just in life, just for anyone, to be honest, knowing what you want's a difficult skill, if you could call it a skill. But knowing what you don't want's probably a bit easier. So it often becomes, that is almost the way that we'd learn.
Or creates the guardrails, right? It's like, nope. Yeah. And you can kind of go and make the guardrails a bit smaller and smaller.
It is, yeah, for sure. And I think that's one skill that I'd had to learn, was that presenting someone as something to someone and then having them reject it is actually a good thing. Like, it gets you to the end result a lot quicker and a lot easier. So I'd put a lot of, like, when you present something to someone and be like, what do you think? And like, they're like, yeah, you're like, oh my God, I'm, disintegrated. And, have I chosen the right thing to be in, all that sort of stuff. So man, I'd love to tell young'uns getting into it to be like, hey, feedback is awesome. Like, it's just fun. If I had been better at taking that on board 15 years ago, I'd like to know where I am now, as opposed to letting my ego get in the way of making things.
I mean, you're talking 11 years ago you get into this space. You can't imagine in 11 years what it was going to become, because you're now living in a world where, this is such a big industry. Content creation, people want it. Like, and you're going from play to being like, oh, well, maybe we've got some skills here that people might want, to people, like, 2020, people lived online. Like, you're living in the framework of which you're working in has shifted so much. Like, what's the evolution been?
I kind of look back at it as like, the frog in the pot sort of thing. It didn't, like, I look back now and I'm like, whoa, but like at the time it doesn't.
That analogy for anyone that doesn't know it, the frog in the boiling water?
The frog in the boiling water, where it's, you don't notice that it's getting hotter until you're like boiled and you're like, I'm dead now. So it's kind of that. So it wasn't until you look back and you're like, oh yeah, I never used to be on my phone this much. Oh yeah, these people never used to ring up a lot. Yeah, it just got busier. I think is all that happened. Is just like, all I knew is that it just got busier. And so you're like, oh yeah. And then you just get in the mud a little bit with work. And then you just like, it's hard to get out and see the landscape has changed that much until we're probably talking about it now. And you're like, oh yeah, that is what happened. I mean, it used to be very gatekeepery as to who could make content back in 2007, 2008. And that's just like, there's only a handful of TV channels that would pick you up, or radio stations or something like that. And so now it's like, no, it's, you just go and you just make it. So it's less so. So I have noticed that change a lot. So anyone can make it. And whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, I'm not sure, but it is, I have seen that change a lot. And I definitely, when the business started, it was very much the way to make content, and specifically film, was always like, this is the way to make it. And when we came along, there was us and a whole bunch of other video productions companies were like, what if we just do this? And it was like, oh, but you don't do it that way. But you're like, why? Yeah. And then the client doesn't care. They just want, like, they're like, that's good. That helps us out. So that's kind of how I've seen the change happen, the way it's meant to be, I guess.
And it's so, I find it so interesting because at the very start, when we were sort of like lightheartedly talking about risk taking, like when I hear you describe all of that, it's just you taking risks with different, like creatively or different ways to approach things and just do it. And I think as well, something that seems to be a real strength of yours is there's like a resilience to it, because you actually said before that you welcome getting knocked back as a way to help you keep getting better and working out what it is that you need to actually do.
I welcome that now. 10 years ago, I probably didn't welcome it as much. And Ro, my business partner, probably shielded me a lot from the feedback we got, purely just so we could get paid. Like, wouldn't let my emotions get in the way of, actually, let's get this content out there so we can get the invoice and get it back. Yeah, is it risky? Yeah. I don't know, but then do you look at a builder building a house and go, oh, what a risk taker? No, I just see them as building a house. Like,
I guess it's a subjective way, isn't it? Because I guess it depends where you're coming from, right? Like putting those different things out.
I would say, though, like if you're a parent and you're watching your child potentially want to get into content creation or wanting to get into YouTube or perhaps be a streamer, like I think a lot of people would think that career, it's like I want to be an actress back in the day, right? Like, it's like, what's your backup? What's your backup? Like, we don't see this as a solid foundation for a career. I think people still would think that, but for you, you're kind of like, why not? Why wouldn't you do it?
Why not? And I think my dad would probably be like, oh, what's your backup? Even though it's up and running as a business. Like, it's like, why are people listening to this? I'm like, I don't know. You tell me. Like, why are they listening to it? For parents thinking of their kids getting into it, like, it's interesting thinking, like, I did it for fun. And if you think that your child's doing it for fun, then of course you're going to want them to have a backup, right? Like, if they're just doing it, because that's what I did at the start. That makes sense.
Yeah, and I guess the thing that I'm wondering about is, so were you aware of the indicators that were letting you know you were good at this? Because I think over time there's a difference between playing and doing it. Like, it's really important to play and have hobbies, and you might never be really, really great at it, right? Like, you might just do paint by numbers, and that's okay. Like, because you're just enjoying doing the thing. You're not thinking about mastering or getting better at it. But I'm interested with you. Were you aware that there were indicators that you were really good at what you were doing that then led to this ongoing work? Because for parents out there, is that a way? So if they see their kids are having fun with something and then they also show that they're really talented or they're progressing or there's some sort of accomplishment, maybe that's a way to not have to say, oh, and you still need your backup plan, or, really pushing the backup plan.
And I'll mention him again because my business partner has always said to me, like, they keep coming back and giving you money. Is that not enough? Like, to be like, oh, you're good at this. But I always have a crisis of confidence because is the invoice not enough to say that we're okay? Like, and it's like, I don't know. But sometimes I don't know what I'm, when I was making it, what I was actually chasing when I was making it. I remember Lachlan and I won CGU competition, which was Gary the Bricklayer, which was a national campaign for an ad for CGU. And we got a giant $20,000 check, which was, those big checks that you used to get as like a prize. I had that for about 10 years in the shed. I still don't know if I do look at it and go, yeah, I'm good at this. I don't know if I do think that. Yeah.
Do you think that's the creative endeavor though, because it's so difficult to put quantitative measures and markers on it? Do you think that's why it's so difficult?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's like because it's totally changes, and like there's been feedback we've got. Like I'd make a film or something and you'd show someone and they'd be like, they hadn't slept in a day because they just had a kid or something, and there's absolutely no reason for them to look at this with like anything but I just want to go to bed. And then you're like, what do you think? And they're like, yeah, it's fine. And you're like, damn it, they didn't say it in the right way. I must be a terrible person. But it's like, like whatever. And like there's been times with clients that you'd ask for feedback or something like that, but then they might be having internal discussions that they're like not seeing eye to eye on a different project, and they're talking about that through this video that you've made them or something like that. And then it's like, I see you take that on yourself and you're like, I haven't delivered them what they want, but they're really thinking about something else entirely. And then, it is probably a bit of the creative endeavor a little bit. And sometimes it's hard when I'm doing things for self-expression. That probably comes a little bit easier where I'm like, yeah, this is fun and good, versus when I'm doing things for other people. And then that's a bit harder.
Yeah, and I think because I can hear you, and also because we've got the video, I'm also seeing it too. Like there's a bit of a tension of there's you spotting the indicators that you're good at this versus like other people on your outside. Because I had a mentor of mine who used to talk about trying to get, he'd call it like your advisory board, like a group of people that you trust, but that also give you different perspectives. And the idea being that they can give you some of that feedback about things that are either working well for you or things like that you need to consider to give you a different perspective, because we've all got our blind spots. So for you as a creator, you're probably just making all these things, but as someone on the outside that's hearing all this, if you're winning awards or getting gigs or getting radio shows, getting TV shows, winning, like getting flown overseas, and then you've got clients that are also like happy with a thing that you've created, that all seems to be saying like, well, you've got this skill set that is really purposeful and great at that. But it's super interesting that hearing you say, you're like, well, I'm still not sure.
Yeah, it's kind of like that. Yeah, you're right. Like it is that. Sometimes I do wish I had a little angel on my shoulder to be like, nice work, buddy. Like or something like that. You're like, yeah. But then, just probably haven't developed that voice well enough. I do feel when you get a team together to make something and they're on board, that's when I'm like, yeah. So that's when I'm really like, oh, there's an achievement there. At the end, when you're all high-fiving, then that's the indicator when I'm like, we did all right. And I do almost like equate that to sports. I'm a big sports guy. And I just love when a team does something together towards the end and then you have that achievement, that feels more real, I guess, than doing stuff on my own.
Dan and I have spoken about this. Like both of us have said we wouldn't be able to work alone. I think for that feeling, like because working in a silo, not having anyone to kind of bounce things off. I mean, you've got that with your business partner, but I can see too how lovely it is to then have a team to work with as well. Like how that gives you that kind of instant feedback.
Yes, yeah, for sure. Sometimes I crave that, but then it costs money to hire lots of people just to cheer you up.
And I also imagine then there's sometimes in a creative endeavor, there's too many cooks in the kitchen almost too, right? With too many ideas.
But that's also something that's a problem with myself that I have to look at a bit, where it's like, we're all a team, but we're doing it my way is probably something a little bit. Yeah.
I think this is leading to, again, I'm thinking of that listener that's sitting there going, what are the skills? So if I'm naturally showing an interest or a preference towards creating things, what are the skills? And listening to what you've been saying, there's things around the ability to present something to someone. So being able to communicate an idea, so explain an idea to someone. Then there's the ability to actually listen and not just like wait for them to shut up and then respond, but to actually listen to what they're telling you. And then you just touched on one just there, which is how do you get the most out of a team? So do you mind telling us, and this might sound really silly, but when you've done it really well, what was it that helped get people all to buy in and achieve that thing?
For me, it's always selling the idea if you're trying to get people on board.
Like creating a shared vision, is that what you mean?
I think so. And whenever I come up with an idea or do something like that, it's always it's probably something that's happened in my life or something where I explain, and it's often a funny story or something that's attached to it. And I often tell that story first, and then I go, therefore, we're going to do this, this, and this. And then it's almost like, I don't know, I try to win people over in that way.
Do you know what? I'm just going to bring in my Year 12 English teacher brain for a second. Every time we do language analysis, did you ever do language analysis? We analyse the impact of language and how it's meant to persuade you. Did you ever do that?
I thought you were going to say, did you ever do language analysis? It's where you analyse language.
Yeah, I'm better than that. I am context. Anyway, it's a huge component of the Year 12 curriculum. And generally what you do is they've moved it into like looking at the way arguments are structured. And generally, everyone will start with building some kind of connection, rapport, or relationship with the audience. And so generally it's kind of like, why would you invest in this person? Or why have they got something to say? Or why would you trust them? And it sounds like that's what you're doing, that you're actually telling a story to bring people along with you and connect with them.
Yes. I haven't been taught that, but that sounds great. I have been doing that, yes.
Yeah, well, it's actually generally how you would structure something to bring people along for the ride, right? So it's interesting. Come to that on your own. There you go.
Oh, there you go. I think the 48-hour film that was born out of that we went to Paris with, that was born out of an idea. My car was stolen from out the front. I had the flu. It was at the front of a house, and the dog was barking, and I was like, shut up, dog. And then I just went back to sleep. And then I slept till from 5 p.m. till midday the next day. I was cooked with the flu. And then I got a call from the cop in the afternoon the next day. They're like, hey, are you going to come get your car? And I'm like, what are you talking about? They're like, oh, it's in Flemington. And I'm like, what? And I had no idea. And then at that point, I was just like, it just really scared me. And then I just kept seeing on the news all these stories of people breaking into houses and stealing keys. And all of a sudden I was like, I'm part of this crime wave. And I was really scared. And then I was like, if they broke in right now to find my key, to steal my keys, I don't even know where they are. We'd have to find them together. And then I'd give them the keys. And then that was where the idea, and then I was like, that's it. And then I thought of that. And I was like, that's a good idea. Like someone breaks into your house, then you find the keys together. And whilst you're finding the keys, you become friends, but you still give them the car at the end anyway. And that was the basis of that film that went on. That's kind of where my ideas come from. Something happens in my life, and I'm like, if I spin that to funny as opposed to tragedy, then that's kind of people get on board, and then they understand it, and then you're away.
So you get.
Is this the answer?
Yeah,
are these the answers you wanted? I don't actually know.
I'm just enjoying the journey, honestly. So I don't think. Don't worry too much about it.
No, and that's it. I think it's less because I think you obviously do something well and you've got a process, but you maybe haven't even thought of or articulate. You just naturally do it. But it sounds like, so you get people to buy in, they get motivated and excited by you, so they can see a story, they can see a vision. You've obviously then got a confidence around that. And something that I've seen you do previously, because I've seen you work in this way as well, is you give people really clear roles. Like you're good with sharing the roles and telling them what to do.
His face is so confused, like, when?
You dare notice this stuff. Usually we just throw a ball at each other. And then
a little creepy.
Just observing all the times. No, because I think because before when you said the team, they all do it and they achieve it, if you're completing a project, I'm imagining people are all fulfilling the roles that they're doing. So there's something that you're doing that helps if you're the director or the creative director with that too. So I'm just wondering about that role clarity piece. And then also it sounds like before you said there's been a change in your ego. So I'm wondering about that you're willing to think less of yourself and more about the projects. Is that right?
Definitely, for sure. Like, it's definitely a wake-up call over the past couple of years. It's just like removing that part of me is necessary, I guess, to achieve things. It's really an understanding of where I'm motivated to make things, how I was motivated, and then going, oh, that's not a sustainable way of continually making content or stuff like that. So then it's been a gradual, I guess, or trying to, the best I can, try and, I guess I'd say it's is it ego? I'm not 100% sure, but trying to figure out why I do the things the way I do them, and then sort of go, oh, that's why I do that. And then you just sort of go, oh, okay, now I can get better at being that person or whatever, and trying to understand it, because, yeah, I know things would make me angry or disappointed, or I'd get in my shell and be very like grumpy, like what's the word? I guess like sooky. I definitely was a bit of a sook with stuff, and I could see that the sooky nature that I was doing around making things was not making anyone happy. So I was just like, I really need to work on this. If we're going to make more money, or B, we're going to actually make more stuff. I got to suck it up a little bit.
It's interesting to me because your process is almost like the opposite of somebody who would do a degree, right? So you're actually going and doing the job and then figuring out on the fly how to do it. And then we're asking you questions about, like, how do you do the thing? And you've never really had the opportunity to sit down and go, well, this is actually my process. Whereas somebody that's, perhaps done a degree, like, these are the pillars and this is how we do it and these are the processes. So they would be able to speak to that quite well. Whereas you're like, I don't know, I just do the thing. And we're asking you to really drill down, well, how do you do the thing? They're like, well, I just do it.
I just do it. Yeah, there's a bit.
I think that's a very creative mindset. You just don't think, do.
Yeah, I definitely am. That is the thing. I just look at it, and I think if you, maybe that's a superpower of mine, along with leaving Tupperware at work. But I think that would be something that, I think you're 100% right. I just do. I think it's a family trait that we have. My mum's very ambitious, and she does the same. She's just like, let's go, and I'm like, all right, let's go. My sisters do it. We all just go, yeah, whatever, just do the thing, and then just make it. But try and explain it's a difficult thing. Now, I guess, now that I'm looking back, it's kind of like it's an old meme, but it's a Leroy Jenkins. I don't know if you've ever heard of Leroy Jenkins. It's a World of Warcraft thing, I think, and it was like all of these.
Husband right into
ask
it.
Your husband.
Oh, he's into it.
Well, the idea was like, it was a group of people that were going to go do something in World of Warcraft, and they spent ages like doing it, and then they just had one guy in the group who just screamed his name, which is Leroy Jenkins, and then he ran off, and they all died, and they were like, why did he like? And I just sometimes I'm a bit like the bull at a china shop, like just run it, and I'm like, I was like, maybe I should have stopped and thought about a lot of this stuff.
But at the same time, I feel like sometimes we can get really bogged down with the way things have always been done.
Yes.
So sometimes not actually knowing. We've had a few more creative people on that are kind of like that they're like, well, if you don't know how it's supposed to be done, how would you do it? It sounds like that's what you do.
That's probably that. I know now that we've got more staff at work and stuff, I have to learn what I do in order to explain it, because that leads to real trouble. So I'm getting better at it now. And part of that was probably removing ego a bit.
Yeah, that's interesting, because sometimes when they look at experts, like research into experts, they find it, especially from like a teaching perspective, they find it really hard to articulate what it is that they do to when they're working with a graduate. So the graduate's like, oh, how did you get the class or a group of preps all just actually do stuff? And the really experienced teacher finds it tricky to articulate their craft.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Oh, agreed. That's the thing.
So Hayden, help us. So thinking of the people that are there listening to this episode, what would be the biggest piece of advice you would give to them if they've got someone in school to just like help, if they've got a really creative kid, or if they're a creative person themselves, or they know a really creative young person, what would be the most helpful piece of advice that you'd say to them?
Or maybe someone who's looking at moving into a creative pathway, maybe. Would that be more?
Yeah, okay. Well,
I was going to say let him struggle with the thinking. It was good. It was good. No.
Well, no, that's right. Well, piggybacking what we were talking about before, it's probably leaning towards that. So you just got to be okay with being okay with being you. I don't want to be too wanky, I guess. Like, and you just like you just got to be like, yeah, that's, I don't know, like some of the stuff, dealing with a lot of creative people, it's just like, you put stuff out there and it's, of course, some people aren't going to like it and some people are going to be bad about it, but it's like being happy with yourself and what you've put out there and being like, that's the best I could do at the time. And that's just what I could do. And then it's like, yeah, cool. Put it on the shelf, move on to the next. That's kind of what creativity is, I guess.
It's interesting because creating like a podcast, for example, it's like, well, why would you do it when there's already one out there or there's already something out there? The whole point, I suppose, even with creativity is that, no, but someone will want it from your perspective or someone will want it with your skills or from your voice, right? So it's kind of backing yourself enough, honing your skill, knowing what you bring to the table in your creative process. Because as you said, like, it's hard for you to even tell someone how to be creative because your process is your own.
That's right.
So just make it.
Because it's just like, this is how Laura sees the world. Cool.
Yeah.
That's not incorrect. That is how Laura sees the world. But how Laura thinks Hayden sees the world is incorrect. So, like, don't do that. So then, like, do what you think.
Yeah. So listening to that, so, like, to talk, I guess if you're a parent, is just you're supporting them to just doing their thing. So it's not about you telling them it's right or wrong or you telling them what to do. It's just if you see that they're doing a thing, literally just supporting, encouraging them. If they question if they're doing it right or wrong, just say, like, well, you know, just keep backing yourself. Like, hearing you say, just give it a crack. So it's whatever way someone word it in their family is saying it that way. Like, we're trying out in our family to say, be brave, not perfect. Because I'm very much covering perfectionist / good enoughness, to steal the words from Brene Brown. But that idea is, so it's like, you got to be brave to give things a go. Don't get worried about the making it perfect.
Yes. I can't look at the stuff I made 20 years ago. Like that, it's just don't. So it's going to like it has to. That's the path for that thing. I guess is creativity. Is just like you're going to start out making shit. Like, am I allowed to swear on this? I've said shit a lot, to be honest.
That's okay.
But it's like, you know, you look back at what you were wearing 15 years ago and you think, my God, why would I?
2 weeks ago.
I mean, it's so, isn't it such the way things like move in fashion and even the same? It's kind of like, wow. You know, I really believed in that at the time.
You didn't like what I was wearing 15 years ago? Is that like...
We've been looking back. We're doing some research.
I haven't gone into the archives, to be fair.
I saw you're on IMDb, by the way, so I did do some looking at. You should see some of his fashion. It is on point.
But it is like... but then again, like... you tell me, like, do parents look at someone being a creative kid and be like, oh, is there a future? Like, are you only thinking career at that point? Or are you like, that's what I don't understand. Like, the advice that I'm giving is like, is this advice for just a painter on the weekend? Like, keep going, kid. You'll just paint on the weekend. That's fine.
I do think, you know, I've had kids that, you know, want to be streamers, for example. And there'll be parents that are like, you know, to them it's kind of like a shot in the dark, like as if you're going to get anywhere. But there's evidence that you can be. You know, people are doing it and people are getting paid for it. But I think, you know, a lot of carers, guardians want stability or want to make sure that whatever pathway that it's going to be a place where they can actually live from, right? So I think that, you know, showing that, well, you actually can. And if you can hone your skill, there's lots of different ways to be able to be successful, quote unquote, you know, or to be able to live from that skill.
I think if you're getting a kid to jump in, if you're getting a kid that I find with like creative things when my kids are doing it is they'll ask me if they've done it, like if they've done a good enough job, if they've done it well, like, oh, what do you think of this? And so I find that interesting because if they've made something and then they ask me, oh, do you think this is right or do you think this is good? I always have to then push back to them to say, well, you tell me, like, what have you noticed? What have you discovered with this? So thinking even of people like wanting to be streamers or something, I think if they're showing an inclination or they're enjoying making something and they're creating something, I mean, you don't want them going and locking themselves away in a room the whole time. And, you know, there's a balance with all that. But I just think sometimes when people are creating things, sometimes we notice by them, they'll come and ask for validation versus like you say to them, well, what are you enjoying about it? Like, what are you noticing? So fighting the urge to say, yes, I think you're a good enough drawer or a painter or, you know, whatever it is you're doing. I
think that's where I got wrong. Like I was making things to make other people happy. And then that is an ever moving target. And that's really hard to build a career on that or whatever. So then it's almost like making stuff to make yourself happy is way more sustainable. Like it's, or understanding that sort of angle of it. So maybe that's some advice. Like,
That's great
Nice,
advice.
Adelaide.
That's really lovely and really well put.
Well, there's a weird bit of research out there that is around artwork. So they got artists to make things and they looked at their whole portfolio, and it was like artworks that they hadn't been commissioned to make, and so painters, and artworks that had been commissioned to paint. It might be pretty flawed, but the people then looked at those and judged them as on like originality, and the ones that were deemed to be, and they didn't know which ones had been commissioned or not, and the ones that were deemed to be more original, I'm putting in like air quotes, were all the ones that hadn't been commissioned.
Yeah.
So, which is an interesting thing sometimes, like, but I know as well, like that's a tension for you. You've got this as part of your business is you're having to create these different things too, but. Hey, I was interested to know about the final thing that we often find out is what's something that we haven't asked you that you think might help the listener?
Oh, damn it.
You haven't said the F word yet, so well done.
Sorry.
Are you
Just letting
you don't have to.
This will be explicit anyway, so if you drop it, you're covered.
Face cuts. Sorry, Dan. Well, coming from a lens of career, I guess, like, it's interesting to see that this is a career now. Like, there is communication as a concept is pretty, like, I do see a career for just communicating in general. Like, so creativity aside, like, I'm very interested at the moment in just helping people clarify thoughts and then putting those thoughts out there as content. And it's like, I don't necessarily see that as sort of film or art or anything like that. It's just more communication sort of thing. And I see that part of this industry growing a lot, or like there's always going to be positions for that. I think people who understand how to communicate well, which I do struggle at sometimes in this particular thought as an example. So I know sometimes this stuff gets bucketed as creativity and art and stuff like that, but I also see it very much like it fits in every business in some way. So I see it as a, like if a kid wants to get into creativity and they're thinking film or podcasting or radio or something like that, like there's always going to be a position for it. I think AI might prove me wrong, but there's always going to be a need to be able to communicate what someone's saying. And I feel like that's where content fits. So yeah, it's a career.
As an English teacher, obviously we have a lot of emphasis on writing the written word. You're talking about communication, which is a much broader idea. If we were to bring the skills of communication into schools that don't already exist, what would those look like?
Into schools?
Yeah. So as I said, we kind of really look at the written word in terms of communication, but you're saying that communication fits in every business. So what types of communication should we really be teaching, do you think?
We're
being so mean to you.
It's just like, it's a big question. Part of the reason we went from the post-away media went from just film to podcasting and other forms is that when you kept pulling the thread, it was the same brief at the top, whether it was copywriting or film or podcasting or stuff. So then the structure was the same. So the structure of a sell or a pitch became, you could do that as a podcast, or you could do that as filming, or you could do that as written word. Like there was such a pattern that was exactly the same. So that's where we sort of filled the void. We knew that we could always make something from that core element of just the structure, I guess. But I know you teach structure at school, like, of course, like, but
I don't think we teach all the mediums that you just discussed.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, it's like
properly and consistently structure it too, maybe.
You'll have to tell me whether or not it happens, but like, I feel like the written word is just a form of communication. Am I wrong with that, or is that just...
No, you're absolutely right. So, but you're just saying then, film, podcasting, they're all ways to communicate message. And I just think you're seeing that those things are certainly, those are skills that are worth investing in, right? Because as I said, I'm just interested that, is there anything else other than video writing, podcasting that you think is worth highlighting as a mode of communication?
As a mode? They're mainly the things. I'd love more people to be good at design. That's just purely on Like, I would love access to more designers in my life.
Yeah.
Whether or not that could be taught, but like visual language in that sense is a really good thing. And I guess that's in terms of medium, that's probably one I would like. But I mean, that gets taught at school, doesn't it? Design's there, like.
Yeah, you can, and you can learn the elements of it. But I think maybe people, what you've just said to us is that communication is critical, and the way that it shows up is in different formats.
So I think value in varying formats is important, I think.
Yeah, and that would fit in with what a lot of industry reports are saying are critical skills for young people, or just in general that people need to get reskilled or upskilled in, is around communication and soft skills, which have been two big parts that you've spoken about.
It's even in like they call it colouring, I guess, in film, colour correction, or like it's a dark art of making an image look great on screen. But it's like it always kind of starts from what I understand at what do you want people to see, like on screen, and then you work backwards from there. That's kind of the thing, and then you're like, well, you keep, and that's kind of the same as like when you talk about a written word or something, it's like, what do you want people to know? And that's often, so people often, the problems that I can often have in the creative world is when you start at the other end and you're like, I just want it to look good. And you're like, but what am I actually trying to show here? We'll see, or something like that. So if that's a thing we could teach, go for it. Like, but that's hard sometimes. That's really hard.
But you've made it clear that all of these varied modes are valuable and are certainly in industry and worth perhaps spending some time on teaching those sorts of skills.
Yes. Yeah, that'd be rad.
Hayden Bevis, it's where should people go if they want to find out more about yourself or Postable, or just if they're wanting to exploring and follow you a little bit more? Is there anything you want to share? Any handles, any socials, anything that you want to mention?
Well, I mean, posterboymedia.com.au is where you go and find where I live, essentially. And then if you wanted to check out some of my work, a couple of podcasts out there. There's Pitch Bleak is a good one if you wanted to pop on and see that. Pod's great. And then there's also, I'm going to drop the F-bomb, Royally Fucked is another podcast that me and Lachlan do at the same time.
He's really mature. He's very much mature.
Really mature. That's where you can come check that out. But I guess... I don't know. One's my corporate identity, the other one's like just me having play. I'm not sure which people would prefer.
Well, it's great that you've still somehow over this time, you've always been able to keep playing, creating too, while also creating a whole career out of it.
So awesome.
Thank you for jumping in and answering and responding to the different questions that we had and just sharing that pathway and story, because I think it's really unique, but it's also a really common one with people that are super creative. So, I've really enjoyed it. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Hayden. It's so nice to meet you today.
Hayden, we normally do high five at the end of our episodes, but we can't do this. So can you do your...
What did you say? Sorry.
We normally do a crisp high five at the end of our episode. I'm going to ask him to... Yeah, he knows what I'm going to do. Can you do your best self-five? Go.
Let's go.
Let's do it. There we go. That's it. Yeah, done. Thanks, Hayden.
Thanks, Hayden.
No worries. Thanks, guys.